Welcome to this video, and we're going to be looking at Python and inputs. And an input in Python is a program that asks for data from the user. Again, it can be from other sources that can be stored as a variable. Okay, and the variable can be stored, recalled later in a program. So, for instance, if we wanted to ask someone in Python, what's your name, what's your age, how old are you, when were you born, what colours do you like, what's your skill level, and so on, what we have to do in programming is store those inputs, and they're stored as variables. Okay, if we look at this example here, this is how we store actual sort of strings or text. So if it's like, what's your forename, or what's your first name, be forename equals input, okay, and then a string, what is your forename, okay, in that in that case, and then we go print hello, comma, and then it calls the variable back in to show the user what they've input. Okay. So if we go into Python GUI now and we put that code in, forename equals input, parentheses or brackets, what is your forename, print hello, forename. If we then run that, okay, what does that look like? So what's your forename? Steve. Hello, Steve. Okay, so it's stored that. What we could also do is we could put in another input like for surname, okay, and what we can do there is we can copy in Python, highlight that, edit, copy, okay, and it wouldn't be the same, would it? Okay, we'd want to change that variable there, that to surname, input, ask the question, what's your surname? Okay, and then what we'd want to do is say hello forename. I'm making sure that we've got the surname in there as well. Okay, so let's run that and see what happens. What's your forename? Steve. What's your surname? Carter. Hello, Steve Carter. Okay, so that's a bit about dealing with inputs. What if we wanted to ask what was your age? Well, we could add in another input here for what's your age. So we could go age equals input. Okay, actually what I'll do, I'll just paste that in there. I'm going to go age. What is your age? Okay. So what I've done, I put in this age line here, age equals input, what's your age, and I've added in after the surname a comma, and then parenthesis, speech marks you are, and then age. Okay, and how that looks is this, like this. Okay, what's your name? Bob Smith, 43. Hello, Bob Smith, you're 43. Okay, obviously we need a bit of spacing in there, but you get the idea. But there's a problem with this age. Age is going to be a number, okay, and when we deal with numbers and variables, we have to do the input slightly differently. Okay, we can't just keep using these as sort of characters as text strings. We have to deal in a certain way, because when we come to calculations and Python's expecting numbers and so on, we need to be able to make sure that we're getting numbers and not some random text and question marks or whatever. We have to deal with it as numbers. So when we want a whole number, or what's called an integer inputted, we must code like this. So age equals int, okay, open parenthesis, input, and this sort of format here. Same for number of give me a number. Okay, it's just the way that the Python language works. So bearing that in mind, what we just talked about there, when we have the age part, so the name of that sort of text and characters, that's fine, but age is going to be a number, so we have to start with the int, because it's expecting an integer, a whole number, okay, and then we have a parenthesis, input, and then brackets, how old are you, but we also need a double bracket, double parenthesis at the end. Okay, in that sort of format. So when we run it, okay, what's your name? Jane. How old are you? 56. Jane, you are 56 years old. Okay, if we ran it and we put some random thing in, Helen, I'm going to put a HY blah 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 blah, it would come up with an error that it's expecting, as it says here, expecting an integer, and none's being provided, so the program won't work. Moving on to our final task is that Dr. Assad needs a program to help calculate the exact minutes, hours, days and seconds his patients have been alive. Okay, so the idea is that the program would start with asking your name, then it would ask you your date, and the end result of the program, the output of the program, would be that it would tell you, hi, Steve, you have been alive for this many seconds, this many hours, this many days, and so on. So let's have a think about how you might do that. Okay, well, if we think about it, this is part of the program. We know that we're going to ask them what their name is, okay, and introduce it. So up here it's got, let's see how old you are in days and minutes. That's really easy. We can use code from before to ask questions. Input the name, we've done that before, haven't we? We've name equals input name. Okay, we just talked about the age in the last part, didn't we? About how we get numbers in, and then the end result will be a print statement, which will be a variable about name. You've been alive for. We haven't talked. We need a variable for days, don't we? We need a variable for hours, minutes, and seconds. Okay, so somewhere in this program we need to put in some variables to do some calculations. So we're going to need some code in here to work it out. Okay, and that's the challenge I've got for you. Alright, is what code, what variables do you need? Well, I'll give you a clue. So you need one for seconds, don't you? Seconds. You need variables for seconds, hours, days. Oh, you need one for minutes, don't you? So do you think that you can work out how we do this? Because there's some calculations. You remember in the first couple of lessons we did, there are some calculations. What are those calculations? Okay, so we've got some clues here. Okay, if I just make this, got some clues here. What would be in here to make this all work? Okay, so have a go at that. So that's a basic introduction to inputs. We've learnt about inputting text and characters, inputting numbers, how to create variables, how to use those variables in Prince. And that's just a really basic lesson on inputting.